welcome back. I'm excited, guys. We're back with the fan panel. It seems like it's been 10 years for me, but I'm Ken Judge on the fan panel here on Ken's Korner podcast. And our roll call for today, our likely guys, our go-to guys since the start, Mr. JT up in Thunder Bay. JT, how are you?
Doing good.
Rocking the Blue Jays. Thanks, guys. They're all rocking the Blue Jays today. George out in Calgary, holding it down for the Calgary people out there. How you doing? I heard you got some frost.
Yeah, doing good. We're hoping to hold off for a little bit more so I can keep on working. But you never know. Snow comes over here all the time.
I love it. That City Connect jersey, George. Thanks for wearing that today. Otis from SportsInTheSix. I think he's in Toronto, but that's his business. So how are you doing, Mr. Otis?
I'm good. I'm actually in Brampton, so I'm good.
Oh, there he is. He's in Brampton, not too far from me here in Stouffville. And Mr. Paul Henny Hendrick. I don't need an introduction, really. Everyone here exactly in the sports world knows who Mr. Henny Hendrick is. Paul, how are you?
All good, guys. And thank you, Ken. Nice to be back for a little chit-chat prior to a hockey season. And, of course, that baseball game, and series happening as well. It's pretty exciting times around these parts.
Yeah, you know what? We're just going to let you take it away. We're going to start with Blue Jay talk here on the fan panel. And let's talk about, okay, guys, we're all going to chime in on this. Let's be honest. None of us expected us to have quite the summer that we actually did. I know we're all diehard Jay fans. Paul, let's start from the start of the season. Your thoughts going into the season and the progression of the summer to where we are.
I hate to admit, Ken, that coming off last season and 74 victories, I sort of dropped out a little bit. Not that I'm fair weathered, but I don't like spending a lot of time watching teams that can't hit, and it was just too frustrating, especially last season. Then they start off the way they did all the way through May. But I'll tell you, when I got back on the bandwagon was that 4-game series sweep of the Yankees in early July and the Canada Day heroics and all that went with it. And I haven't missed a beat since then. And, I was there when Carter hit the home run. I was in the stadium. I was there for the first World Series game in Canada and the triple play that didn't happen, but actually did happen against Atlanta. A huge fan. So very excited. Didn't expect any of what we're getting on now, but we're seeing a team that is symbolic of what a real team looks like. And that's balanced right through with the lineup, even though there might not be a bevy of superstars here.
Otis, your thoughts on this season? I know you've, like I said, I was saying off the air, I'm pretty envious of the fact that you're all sports. So you're talking about the Blue Jays right through the summer. Let's hear some of the thoughts from the people that listened to your show at the start of the season compared to where we are now in October.
Not gonna lie, I've been roasted because I wasn't very high on the team to start the season either, just based off how they were last year. And then with all the injuries, I think they were 26 and 28 at one point. And I was like, here we go again. And they've turned it around. So I thoroughly admit that I was wrong. And they've come together really well with all the injuries that they've had. Players missing. Everybody in this lineup has stepped up at one point in time throughout the season. And I think they really, really enjoy playing with each other. You can just tell by the way they interact with each other that that's a real team. And I'm not a big John Snyder fan, but he's done a great job of making it all mesh together this year.
Yeah. JT, what was your Ken's Korner turning point of this season?
I would say the same as Henny. That sweep in July, and it built camaraderie on that team. I think that team really gelled, and a lot of sports, you see players that you got some superstars, and that will carry you through. And sometimes it's just everybody getting together and playing as a team. You don't have to play big ball; just play some small ball. Get the outs when you need them. And I think defensively, this is probably the best team I think I've seen hit the field in a very long time. And that'll always help you out. And then when their bats come hot, Alejandro Kirk, I believe has 5 home runs his last 10 at bats and had a double. That's those numbers are unheard of, especially for a guy his in his position. He just sees it and he's feeling it and he's driving it, and everyone's following suit.
Yeah, you're so right, George. As they say, the Toronto Blue Jays. Sometimes it's hard for us guys that live right in the city or by the city to remember the Blue Jays aren't just Toronto's team; they are Canada's team. Mm-hmm. So, tell us about the excitement in Calgary so far around the Blue Jays.
Well, just like we had at that bar up in here in Calgary for the Leafs, we have a Jays bar now. So we're pretty happy for what's going on. And we got to talk about my name, George Springer. There's a man that's been hitting the ball and being good for our team. And Guerrero sometimes has it hard, but he's bouncing back. His defense is right there, and hopefully he gets his bat going and we'll be good. But hey, Kirk, all the way. He's the man right now, and we'll take that.
Well, you're so right. He was signed to a contract. I think they went to Mexico to scout a player who wasn't Kirk, and they found Kirk, and they gave him, I think, $7,500 on a contract to sign with the Blue Jays, and look where it's taken us, right, Paul? So I'm hearing on Twitter, or better, other than that, it's called X, I guess nowadays, that some New York fans down there saying, "Relax, Toronto, Canada, you have to win more than one game." Now, is this the best case scenario for a player like Vladdy Guerrero to see the New York Yankees, where he's had so much success with that team after the struggles he's had later in this year?
I think it motivates him. He may say it's just another game, just another team, but I think it certainly motivates him. Vladdy, you look at the sum of his entire parts. They don't always come together at the same time. And, the guys are talking about the great defense we saw. Finally, first home run in 21 or so games. If he can get it all together, especially the hitting part, I think it's going to hold well. He really missed Bo Bichette out of the lineup and the protection that Bo afforded him moving forward. So I'd like to see them get through this round, get Bo back, and just continue to move forward. But those New York fans, they hate their team and they love their team. There is no in between. And I think they're starting to begrudgingly accept that this Toronto Blue Jay team is very good. It reminds me of the Blue Jays going down all those years and playing Tampa and wonder, why can't we beat these guys? And just could never beat those guys. I think Toronto's that kind of thorn in their side, and hopefully Vladdy continues to do what he's going to do. They're going to need it and get the pitching as well. But Vladdy's going to have to continue, and that chubby little Mexican catcher as well. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, it's amazing. Blowing kisses to the crowd is the best thing I've seen since Joe Carter, to be honest. Otis coming into that last part of the season. John Schneider actually had to say, "The effing sky is not falling," I believe is what the quote was. And we were up against Boston, who plays us tough. And as Paul was just saying, those pesky Tampa Bay Rays. What were your thoughts and the people who were joining you on your show heading into that last series where we, in fact, swept out the Rays and won that last game in Boston to secure that division?
Yeah, I think the panic button was there for a lot of people just because, Vladdy wasn't hitting very well. Kirk wasn't hitting very well. They were in a huge batter slump. But they all came together and they stuck to what they've done all year and played hard in every game. And I think the pitching is what really got them through September. Even though they lost some games there and it was really, hit or miss, their bullpen was amazing in September. I think it was like the top 5 bullpen in all of September. So, yeah, it's great to see that, they were able to get it done because they could have easily been a wild card team. And I don't know if I would have liked their chances against Boston.
Yeah, not against Crochet, that's for sure. He's a scary, scary pitcher. Actually, since we're talking about the bullpen, JT, before we start picking our MVP for the Blue Jays in your eyes, what's your thoughts on Jeff Hoffman? Can he get it done? Are you scared every time, like I am, every time he comes up? And in fact, he's got 33 saves, and he's in the top 3 or 4 in the American League. But does he scare you as much as he scares me?
I think as long as he maintains his velocity, like they were saying last night, he can keep it together. His problem is pitch location, and sometimes he just starts getting hit. So as long as he keeps the numbers up and keeps his head in the game, I have no fear at all with him. It's just whether or not he lets the other team get into his head or lets himself get into his head. So. Yeah,
for sure. George, you watching that game out there in Calgary, watching 42,000 people in that stands. What's your thoughts when you look at that? I know you've already spoke to me about flying home once we're in the World Series. So tell me some more about your thoughts and your excitement for that game. And you know what? While you're at it, please start with your MVP for the Blue Jays.
Well, my thoughts of seeing that is wish I was there. I was at both parades when we won. It's just wishing I was there and in the excitement. My MVP would be my name, George Springer.
Thank you. Paul, your MVP.
Part of me wants to say Bo Bichette, but I got to go with George and George Springer as well. And in the comeback season he's had, and just, that team with George's season a year ago won 74 games, albeit there were other extenuating circumstances that led to such a poor season for Toronto. But I'd have to go, I think without a doubt, it's George Springer. But he has carried this team, and that's right from the leadoff position. It all falls from there. Yeah,
you're so right. And in fact, he's just got his first 300 average in his career, which is amazing at 309. When there's only a handful of 300 hitters in the game these days. Otis, are you following suit, or do you have another name?
No, I totally agree. It has to be George Springer. After last season, I thought he was done. I wasn't very confident coming into the season that he was going to have a great season, and he's been on since April throughout the entire year. So I definitely, without him, they'd be a struggle to make maybe even make the playoffs without him playing as well as he played.
Yeah, you're so right. There's many people out there who thought, in fact, that he would have been DFA'd some point during this year. But what an amazing turnaround. And JT, your thoughts? Can you go against the guys here?
I don't think I can. He's been captain consistency all the way through. And he's not just his play, not defensively, offensively. It's the character he has on that bench. He's just such he's a fun guy, and I think he keeps everything light, and he keeps everybody light, and you can just see that ripple all the way through Vladdy and Kirk. I mean, I think Alejandro Kirk has been the guy the last couple of games, obviously, but for consistency, you got to say Springer. He's that guy.
Yeah, you're right. He led the team in home runs and average, stolen bases. Moving to DH certainly didn't have a negative effect on his swing, that's for sure. And I'm going with the crew, guys. George Springer, it is our MVP here on Ken's Corner. Paul, actually, we're moving on here a little bit. And we've had some sudden passings of legends of hockey. One named Ken Dryden, and lately Bernie Parent. Can you give us a little insight into these men and their careers and what they were like off the ice?
I never knew Ed Jackman. I was a kid and I was a fan, but I did get to interact with Bernie Parent at the 2015 NHL Awards in Las Vegas or was it 2016-17 when Austin won Rookie of the Year, and Bernie Parent was coming down the red carpet. And it's a Las Vegas red carpet, so there's some hockey people there, but not many. And I invited Bernie over, and everything's just off the cuff. And I said, Bernie, my first NHL game was in 1972. You're on the bench for the Toronto Maple Leafs against Cesar Maniago of the Minnesota North Stars, but in nets for the Leafs was Jacques Plante. And he lit right up. And I said, what kind of impact did Jacques have on you? And he said, in so many ways, in terms of leadership, positioning, competitiveness, and Jacques' success to Bernie reflected the success that Bernie had with the Philadelphia Flyers. And that's just my first game, like Cesar Maniago, Jacques Plante, and there's Bernie Parent, a backup with the Toronto Maple Leafs. That was a 3-3 game. The other is Ken Dryden, who I got to know very well, as president of the hockey club, very competitive man, very philanthropic person, not only in terms of donating money, but in terms of just giving of his time. His brother Dave, equally good and just reflective of their dad, Murray, who was the ultimate philanthropist, raising money to buy care packages and sleeping paraphernalia for kids who just don't have it. And this was their dad, and that passed down to Dave Dryden and Ken as well. So just special people. And I remember Ken ripping into me one time. We were in Boston for a game, and the big talk was what was going to happen with Cujo and Glenn Healy and Felix and all of this stuff. And I went to ask Ken a question in the press box in Boston. My producer, Mark Askin, had set me up. We're live. And Ken just looked at me with glaring eyes. The Leafs had just been scored on twice. The timing wasn't perfect. Ken came to me in the airplane on the flight back home and wasn't very, very kind. He was a tough, competitive guy. And Mark Askin, our producer, jumped in and just said, Ken, that was my call to have Paul ask you that. So Ken just said, okay, we'll leave it at that. And not long after that, Ken was, I'm not saying apologetic, but very good about it. And we had a good talk, and we went forward. And he was the president of the club for the longest time that I was there. And he graciously came on my podcast, The First Question, with one stipulation that we don't talk about him. We talked about his book, Scotty, but we inevitably brought it back to him. And Ken was very generous with his time. So goaltenders like Bernie Parent, Dave Dryden, who passed a few years ago, and Ken Dryden, special people. And to those who knew Eddie Jackman, and I know I'm going on here, just a wonderful person, and from Sudbury. And you asked Joe Bowen about Ed Jackman, you'll get a much better response than I was able to give you.
Well, maybe once Mr. Bowen retires, then he can actually come on to a podcast like Ken's Corner, and I'll ask him that question.
Yeah.
Thank you for going on. It's great insight. I'm sure we're all love to hear what you were saying there about some people that we grew up watching play hockey as well. So thank you for your words. Otis, we're moving on here a little bit, and we're going to talk about the new ruling in the NHL. Well, a couple of things that are coming out. First is that might impact the trade deadline, might affect the trade deadline, and that's the cap constraints come playoff time. Now, is that going to stop teams like, that have been people have pointed their fingers at it a little bit, like Florida and Las Vegas for stacking up players, and Florida just lost Barkov. So, I mean, can they add a player and not have one of those guys? And for what I correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but from what I believe the cap constraint means is they can have the player on their squad, just not on the ice. You have to be cap compliant once you hit the ice. Am I right?
I believe that's what it is. Yeah.
So give me your thoughts on that. Is that going to change the way the trade deadline is approached?
I think it's good for the league. I mean, I personally didn't really care what Vegas was doing and some of the teams that they were doing because it was within the rules. Is it a little weird? But it was within the rules and it didn't really bother me. I still felt like all teams had an opportunity to win the Stanley Cup at the end of the day. So to me, I don't know if it really changes much. It just forces teams to be a little bit more strategic with their lineups. When they are putting the lineup out. So they have to be a little bit more mindful of, I can't do that, right? So I think that's what will change a little bit is just that portion of it.
And JT, your thoughts on the same thing?
It was a loophole that everybody had available to them. Now nobody has it available to them. I don't think it changes the game any at all, but I think it keeps everybody on the board, and it'll stop the finger pointing. at teams like Florida and Vegas and whatnot. It just cleans it up and makes it look better above board. But everybody's still always been on the same page. I mean, anybody could have used that loophole, and anybody did use that loophole. Lots of teams did, but they just got the best for it. And anyway, it's closed. I don't think it's a deal.
I think maybe even Toronto used it at some point. And I mean, it didn't work for them, but I think we actually did use it at one point. George, do you have any thoughts on that subject?
Well, I hope it affects Florida for sure. I hope it puts their game in a loophole right there. But other than that, I just wanted to say I hope it affects Florida.
Yeah. And Paul, you get the last words on this one, please.
Yeah, I agree with the rest of the guys, and we can throw Tampa in there. I think Las Vegas, like Otis brought up Vegas, that was the first team I thought of, and good on them. They utilized it. They was well within the rules in Florida and Tampa as well. Toronto's done it. I just think it brings a better or more even playing field, and it just forces general managers and capologists to think a little bit stronger, a little bit better, and not bury someone for a long period of time, then all of a sudden bring them back on. The league is always adjusted to malpractices or teams taking advantage of existing rules. So I think this is just one of these moving forward, and I'm glad to see it come in. Really glad to see it come in.
Yeah, so am I, to be honest.
Yeah.
Talking about Florida, Otis, you must have noticed 300 plus penalties in the Florida Tampa Bay game, and there's 4 Tampa Bay guys, including former Leafs Savarin, who's up for basically mugging Aaron Ekblad of Florida there. Do you have any thoughts on what the heck was going on in Florida?
I think that boils from last season in the playoffs, to be honest. It was a pretty, I mean, we saw all the stuff that went on in the playoffs in that series last year. I'm surprised it was that aggressive in a preseason game. But yeah, I think a lot of it had to boil down to what happened last year in the playoffs.
Yeah, well, you know what? There's something else I want to ask you. How the heck did Mikkola get back on the ice to assist the goal when he was actually thrown out of the game?
I really don't know. Can't answer that one, Ken.
I don't think any of us here can answer that one. That's a different thing. I don't think. Paul, have you ever seen that happen?
No, not off the top of my head, guys. I don't think so. Yeah, just to add to this, we could have seen this in Ottawa, Toronto. You're seeing a bit of Ottawa, Montreal. Some teams might want to rethink who they play in the preseason, just given the natural rivalries. Guys can get hurt. I mean, seriously hurt. But there's a big hate on from Tampa to Florida, and I think this is just trying to plant seeds for the upcoming part of the season. That's all this is about. Plant the seeds and screw you before they screw us. So I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I noticed that a lot of games, like in that game, it was Tampa Bay's minor league team playing against Florida. And JT, you actually went to a game at Montreal that was just like that. And I mean, it's gone against the Leafs, where the minor league Red Wings beat us and minor league Ottawa beat us. But you were at the Montreal game where it was a 7-2 win, and I think Scott Lawton, unfortunately, he's injured now, had a really big game. Give us your rundown on that game at Montreal. What did you see that you liked from that Leaf team?
Constant pressure. It was actually a fun game to watch. It wasn't as fast. I've been to a lot of Leaf games where the big boys are playing, and you can tell it was AHLers out there on both sides. I think Montreal had way weaker defense, and what we had available to us, we were able to penetrate them time and time again. Like Lawton's goals, like some of them, he just went in unhampered. It was, it was a fun game as a Leaf fan to be at. The crowd was pretty energetic. I've never been to the Montreal Forum before. I've never been there, and that was actually really quite the place to watch a hockey game. It was more electric than watching them at Scotiabank, I'll tell you that. But It's funny. I had a guy in front of me. He's wearing a Leaf Suck shirt and having 167 on the back, and it was a lot of fun. And nobody jived me about wearing the jersey except for one guy, but he was obviously had a few in him. But after the game, but other than that, it was a fun thing to go to. And Leafs rookies beat the or AHL club, I guess it'd be better to say, beat the Montreal's AHL club. Whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's you know what? That's always fun to watch. I've been to a couple of games like that. And I enjoy doing that as well. George, I know you're not a Calgary Flame fan, but give us your insight from what you're hearing in the Calgary area. Like, I heard that Jonathan Huberdeau was asked why he didn't show up to practice, and he said he didn't feel like it.
Yeah.
Is that story going around Calgary? Are you hearing that?
Well, CJ doesn't like some of the stuff that's going on in Calgary, and we're saying that there's a lot of talk that Calgary is not going to go too far this year or next year, but they'll be there 3 years from now. Wolf is a good and up and coming goalie, and I think he'll do well when he gets a team in front of him.
Paul, you're next up here. Now, let's talk about Edmonton Oilers and Connor McDavid. Why the heck hasn't Edmonton gone and got another goalie? Do they just really trusted Stuart Skinner that much? And why hasn't Connor McDavid signed that contract? Is that because of guys like Kaprizov signing $17 million?
Because he's going to Toronto.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be great, George? Hey, but never say never, right? Until it's actually done. They know what Skinner can do. They know he's got his highs, his lows, and the whole point is you got to get to yourself to March, trading deadline time, see where you're at, and then try to reconfigure as best you can. But he's a pretty good goaltender. Every fan base realizes its own team's warts. You don't see the other team's warts as much. I just think Skinner's not a bad goaltender. And is he perfect? No, but few are. And regarding the McDavid situation, until that gets done, it's not done. And I know from his perspective, he'd like to see just exactly where this Oiler team is headed for the next few years before he commits. I think he is going to commit, and I think it's going to be for probably 3 years and not commit to anything long-term. And as to what that salary is going to be, he's a unicorn. He'll blow out the Minnesota signing, no problem.
Yeah, I could see it starting with a 20, to be honest. And
sure.
You're right, as far as Stuart Skinner, I'm not a big fan of Edmonton, but he is a very young goalie, and he's got a lot of upside as big as he is. With the experience that he's had, there's not many goaltenders in the NHL with the experience that he's already had. Okay, Otis, your top 5 early predictions, your contenders. I'm not asking you for your Stanley Cup champion, but just give us 5 contenders.
Yeah.
And we'll move it around, guys. Everyone, please get a list together.
Yeah, so I originally had Florida in number 1, but obviously with the injuries that they have, I removed them. So I got Dallas. I think they're going to be there. Carolina is going to be there. I hate to say this, but I think Vegas is going to be there as well.
Sure.
Edmonton and Colorado, I got to top it off. And I got Florida at 6.
Where are the Leafs standing for you?
I'm still undecided, Ken. I don't think the Leafs team is bad. Like, everyone's talking about Marner leaving, and that's a big topic of discussion here in Toronto. I don't think they're better, but I don't think they're worse than last year. I think they're just different. I think they need some time to figure it out. I do still think they need a top 6 forward to kind of move up. I think they're somewhere in and around the 10 mark right now, maybe 11, depending on what they do to improve their team. Again, I still think they need a top 6 forward to kind of move up a little bit.
If they get someone like Rickard Rakell or Brian Rust, is that?
I would rather Alex Touch, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think he would fit what they kind of trying to do, but there's a lot of risk of what they're doing in their top 6 right now. Like, I don't know how you guys feel. I love Max Domi, but I don't think he's a top 6 forward, and I love Bobby McMahon as well, but I don't think he's a top 6 forward either. So
we'll get back to that. Sorry to prod you on that. I just find it weird when I don't hear the Leafs in the top 5. So
yeah, I'm trying to be realistic. I'm trying to be as honest as possible, even though
that's exactly what I want from you. That's amazing. Thank you, JT. Your top 5 contenders.
Well, I'd have to break it up because you really don't know what's happening between East and West. But in the West, I'm seeing Dallas. I see them just being hard-nosed, and I'm seeing Vegas. I don't know if Edmonton can complete it. It comes down to exactly what you guys were talking about with Skinner, whether he can maintain the storm and be their guy. So there's 3 teams there out of the West, I think, that could take it all at any given time. Out of the East, Florida, I know they have injuries, but they don't have a lot of big. They've lost Ekblad, but they're not Ekblad, but their captain there. I don't think that's as big of a deal as some people think. I think Florida's still heavy in the heat of it. I think
Kachuk's out for a bit too.
Pardon me?
Kachuk's out till December as well.
Yeah, but that's only a part of the season. I'm same as George. I don't like the guy, but he's going to play when it means to play. As long as they can stay near the top and get into the finals, or championships, he's good to go. So I think Florida's still going to be a bit of a nemesis. But I hate to say it, the Leafs have made some changes. We lost Marner, but I'm dying to see what Michelli can bring to that team. And Roy and a few other players, I think they are more built for championship hockey. I see them actually possibly taking the East. But whether they can contend with what comes out of the West, I don't know.
Yeah. From what I'm hearing, Florida might not try to actually replace Markov, more as they'll move everyone up and replace the third line center, which makes a lot of sense to me. George, your top 5.
Well, I'm in the West. I am seeing Colorado and Dallas. Not too sure about Vegas right now. Not a big fan of Edmonton, but in the East there, I'm going Toronto, Florida, and Carolina.
Why does Florida stick around in that top for you? Is it just because they won the last couple? Is it respect?
Well, they're a fighting team, and they're a rough team, and they're going to be there. I said, regardless, they're going to be there, and so are we.
Mm-hmm. And Paul, your top 5, please.
Well, I'd love to say Toronto, but anytime you lose the 5th all-time leading scorer in franchise history, and I don't give a rat's ass about what people said he did or didn't do in the postseason, we've lost a generational talent in Mitch Marner. And even though he wasn't around for a Stanley Cup victory in his first 9 seasons, that's not to say in the next 5 he wouldn't have been around for one had he decided to stay. They wanted to leave, so good luck to Mitch. I think Vegas is going to be a team to contend with. Colorado, Dallas, Edmonton is going to be in the mix. There's no question about that. I like Carolina as well in the East. And I like where Toronto's going to be. They're going to be a rougher tumble kind of team, and maybe a team built to go longer in the postseason. But guys like Austin, Willie, they've got to continue to do what they do. And we've talked about, Michelli and McMahon. They're not top 6 guys. But I'd like to see a bigger improvement from that bottom 6, especially offensively. And maybe finish 3rd in the division, and let's see where we'll go. Hopefully Joseph Wall comes back, but until that happens, James Reimer is a nice little caretaker to look after things, and that's predicting that Stolarz is able to stay healthy.
You think Reimer gets signed?
I think there's a good chance. We'll see where this all falls into place, but you're going to need a goaltender. I don't think anything the Marlies have is ready to really pick up that. They're in a back-to-back really early in the first week of the season. Stolarz has to stay healthy. I love that blue line. They're big. They're experienced. I think there's enough protection up front to enable whoever's in nets to succeed relatively consistently. But boy, oh boy, I'm going to miss a generational talent, arguably one of the top 3 right wingers on the planet playing in Las Vegas.
I would hate to use your own words, Paul, but they threw the baby out in the bathwater.
Yeah. The baby wanted to go. So, that's up to Mitch's agent and his dad.
That's true.
He was one of my favorite players on the team, and I do miss him. But, there's other players out there. And, I'm not too sad about having Domi up on the first line with Knives and Matthews there. At least he has some backup up there.
Yeah. He does, but as Otis said, He's not Mitch Marner. They both played for the London Knights, and with all respect to Max, I've known Max pretty much his entire life. Great hockey player, but like Mitch Marner he's in a level above so many other players.
Can anybody be Mitch Marner other than Mitch Marner?
No. I think what Paul's trying to say is that
I know what he's trying to say.
You need like a top 6 forward that has not maybe that elite level as Marner, but someone that, again, no disrespect to Max, great player, but he's not a top 6 forward.
But let me ask you this: if Austin Matthews decides to be Austin Matthews this year, and we all know he was injured last year and still scored plus 30 goals, what happens if he gets back around 58, 59, 60 goals? Does that make up for the loss of Mitch Marner?
I think it depends. To Paul's point earlier about, Nylander, Tavares, Matthew Nice needs to continue to grow, Bobby McMahon, Domi, Michelli. There's a lot there that if players play to their capabilities, yes, you're going to miss. I don't care what anyone says. You're going to miss Marner. They're just going to be a different team that has more depth. Because let's be real, guys. At the end of the day, the reason why they haven't been successful in the playoffs has not been because of defense or because of goaltend to extent, but it's mostly because they haven't been able to score.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
right.
That's true. Now, you know what? And from what I'm hearing around the board, if Mr. Treliving and the management of the Maple Leafs feel the same way, there's got to be a top 6 forward coming to the Leafs. It doesn't really make sense. Otherwise, you're wasting another year of Austin Matthews' contract. Now, I want to talk about a player. He's getting kind of old. I mean, he's still the kid, and I want to know what you guys think of it. Where that is headed. Is Dubas going to step up and trade away Sidney Crosby? And does Sidney Crosby want to leave? I'm hearing Florida possibly. I'm hearing Montreal because that's the team he grew up loving. Or maybe he goes to Colorado, or maybe he doesn't go anywhere. JT, I want you to get the first crack at this one.
I don't think Sid the Kid will ever want to leave Pittsburgh. I really don't. I think he'd rather ride that all the way through. As long as they give him something around him to maintain some competitiveness. He doesn't need to be looking for a cup, but he wants to be competitive. And his numbers are actually better than Ovi's if you actually look for points totals. He's just not the goal scorer, but he is still Sid the Kid. If he does go, he would have to be going to a solid contender. I don't see Pittsburgh dealing him anywhere inside the East because they're not going to let him go to that. So yeah, I could see him going off somewhere to the West. Colorado would be a good one. I think he would be a good guy's sidekick around out there with McKinnon. And yeah, I don't know. I don't think he would leave, but if he did leave, he would have to be going to a team in the West that's going to compete. And bringing him to Colorado, I think, would put them over the edge, and they would be the leader on the West to win a cup.
So what do you think about that, George? If Colorado ended up with Sidney Crosby, does that make them the Stanley Cup favorite?
Well, Dubas doesn't make the best choices, and we all know that for sure. And Colorado, I think he would go to Colorado and hang out with McKinnon, and yeah, they could string something together and make them pretty hard to to beat.
Paul, your thoughts? Does Sidney Crosby leave Pittsburgh?
Never say never. I've talked about a story on this program a while back when the Leafs asked Mats to waive his no trade so that they could trade him, get something back for him, and rebuild because they were definitely in that mode. Boreas Salming told Mats in a phone call at the Brook Street Hotel in the lobby in Ottawa, you don't go. If you don't go, this is the Toronto Maple Leafs, and you stay on. But eventually, push came to shove. Mats ended up going to Vancouver, but it just didn't feel the same to him. I think Sidney would like to stay, but if there's an opportunity to go win another cup elsewhere and perhaps help Pittsburgh rebuild because they're definitely headed in that direction, maybe it happens. And when you think of McKinnon from Cole Harbour, same hometown as Sidney, I like that story. But boy, it'd kind of be sweet to see him go to Montreal. And to echo JT's comments about going into that building, my favorite NHL building, Montreal and Leafs on a Saturday night. Knowledgeable fans, fun fans, respectful fans compared to some other cities. So I'd like to see him go to Montreal, but I think there's a possibility that he could go, yes.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. A good Leaf Montreal matchup is pretty good. We can match wits with those Canadian fans pretty good. Mm-hmm. Otis, your thoughts? Does Crosby leave, or does Pittsburgh maybe Malkin to leave, or Letang?
I think I agree with everyone. I think I agree with everybody. I think Sid wants to stay. I think if the opportunity for him to leave, I mean, to go to a contender is always there. The challenge with a trade with Crosby is he's still good, but he's probably staying for 2 years. So you're looking at maybe 2 first-round picks, maybe a top prospect. Like, that's a lot to give up. And I get it. You have a chance to win the cup for a guy who may retire in a couple of years. So I think that some teams that are desperate to win a cup will probably do that. But to me, that's a lot of draft capital to give up for somebody who may only be around for a year or two.
Hey, Otis, a story, Ken. Otis, if the Leafs were given that opportunity, would you do it? If you're Brad Treliving?
I would, yes.
So would I.
Does he make the Leafs a Stanley Cup contender? Does he make the Montreal Canadiens a Stanley Cup contender?
He would make the Canadiens and the Leafs both would be contenders if Crosby came over. Yeah.
Is that even a possibility, Paul, that Sidney Crosby could end up in Toronto?
I doubt it.
Say this?
I doubt it. But boy, even 2 more years of Sidney, and he's sort of like John Tavares, getting older, but still very good, and just how they would complement that group around them. And to echo, what George and JT have also said, making use of this window we have with Austin to be competitive. If there's an older guy I would trade for, he would be that, because he takes such good care of himself. He's a superstar.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to talk about the Leafs. We already know the Leafs' top 6 is where it's pretty much set in. As top 6 defensemen, we know Stolarz is going to start the season against Montreal. Probably Reimer backing him up, I'm assuming. Let's talk about that bottom 6 and where we go without Scott Laughton in the lineup. Does Ethan Cowan make the lineup for you, JT? He does? Where's he playing in the lineup?
I don't know. I think he'd be a third liner, but he'd be probably on a second power play unit until they start working their way up. He's a tenacious guy who does not stop working. I don't know. I see him making it, and I don't think he'd be breaking the top 6, but he definitely would be on the third line more than the fourth line.
Thank you. George, as we know, David Kampf has already been waived and now sits with the Marlies. What happens to Kelly Yarncroc? Does he make the team now with Laughton going down? And while we're at it, guys, where the heck is Nick Robertson going? What are your thoughts on Nick Robertson and Kelly Yarncroc? That either of them make the team?
I'm not too sure about Kelly. I do like Cowan coming in. The other one you said was what's his name?
Robertson.
Nick Robertson. Nick Robertson. I do like that kid. I think he puts a lot of plays hard, plays above his statue, and he's in there grinding. And he scores goals. I kind of like that kid.
Yeah, that was not very often, as they said on the telecast last night, the Leafs Detroit game, where Nick Robertson used a slap shot to beat John Gibson. On
a penalty kill.
Pardon me?
Short-handed on a PK.
Exactly. Paul,
he even said the same thing. He doesn't remember the last time he was on a penalty kill, maybe junior. He's not a PK guy, and he goes in there and rings a clapper 5-hole. It was kind of funny.
Yeah, that was amazing. Paul, your thoughts on these guys, Easton Cowan, Kelly, Brock, and of course Nick Robertson.
Yeah, Camp to the minors, very happy with that. I do see Cowan making this club, and hopefully no worse than third line right wing. what concerns me a little bit is he's not a small guy. He's getting bigger. He's growing into himself, but I still think you'd like a couple of lines of big, grinding Matthew Nyes kind of style players on those bottom six. I know it's pie in the sky, but I think he does make the team. And if he has to go to the Marlies, then so be it. And he's playing 18 minutes a night and getting first power play time and all of that. That's a win-win situation until they have to call him back up. But I think he's going to make it. And I like to see Nick Robertson make it. He's a smart young man. He's a very talented young man. And I just like to see him given another chance. I know it's another chance to prove his worth, because if there's anyone I can see sneaking up into that top six somewhere, it's Nick Robertson. And I know that's what they've thought of him over the past couple of years, and he just hasn't been able to elevate his game. But I think he sticks around, and losing Scott Lawton right now, that's really, really difficult. But it's a long season. He's going to get back, and we'll go from there. But that bottom six is as much a concern to me as replacing a Mitch Marner on the top six. They've got to be consistently strong, and they've got to contribute offensively some way, somehow. At least one of those bottom six lines.
Yeah, I liked it the way it was set up with Lawton in the lineup, and I hope that's not a broken foot and keeps him out a long time. Otis, you get the last thoughts here. What are your thoughts on Nick Robertson, Easton Cowan, and Kelly Yarncroc?
Yeah, I think all three will make the team, to be honest. Just because of Yarncroc is like a veteran, and I think there's an opportunity there for him. I agree with Paul that I'm surprised they haven't given Robertson an opportunity on either the top line or the second line. And when I say a shot, I'm talking about not just a cup of coffee. Give him 20 games and see how he is, and make a decision from there. I think he would be a perfect fit with Austin and Nyes, to be honest. But I'm not the coach. And then with Cowan, I think
I would
Cowan,
like that.
Yeah, with Cowan, I think he's ready. But I think, to Paul's point, I don't know physically if he's physically ready for the grind day in and day out. I think he's going to get 9 games. And then they're going to evaluate. If he's good to go, then they're going to keep him. If he's not, then they'll send him back down to the Marlies. And to Paul's point, he'll get 18, 20 minutes a night playing in different types of situations. And then they could potentially call him back later on in the season.
So Fraser minting them.
Essentially, yeah. I think he'll get the 9 games if he's playing well, and if he can prove that he's good enough to stay here. And I'm talking about teams that are physically tough to play against. I think that's what Brewery is really going to look at and analyze, and the whole leadership team will analyze. Is he physically ready to play in the NHL consistently? And if the answer is yes, then he'll be here. If the answer is no, then they'll send him down to kind of grow on that part of his game. So,
does Robertson end up in San Jose?
There is a big possibility that he could get traded. I mean, it's unfortunate because I don't believe the Leafs are in a position to be trading away their young talent, in my opinion. I think they should, you're taking a huge risk if you trade a guy like Robertson, Cowan, Danforth. You know what I mean? You're taking a huge risk because you don't have a lot of quality down there. So, but there is a potential that he get traded just because there's no room for him, right?
Thank you. All right. Our last thing we're going to do here, JT, and we're going to start with you. We do this all the time on Ken's Corner. What is your Game 1 prediction? Toronto Maple Leafs versus the Montreal Canadiens live at the Scotiabank Arena.
When the actual NHLers play, short Lawton, of course, but it's going to be all Toronto, and it's going to be kind of embarrassing. I'm calling a 5-1.
Ooh.
Thank you. George?
I'm right there with you, JT. I'm calling it 5-2.
Mr. Henny Hendrick?
These games are always 1-goal games 75% of the time, and I'm going to go 3-2 Toronto.
Thank you. Overtime?
No.
And Otis, your prediction, please.
I'm going to go 4-3.
4-3.
Leafs.
Overtime?
No overtime.
Okay. Thank you. Who scores a winning goal, guys? Otis, who's your game winner?
I'm going to go with Bobby McMahon.
JT?
Willie?
George?
Cowan?
I like that one. Mr. Hendrick?
Morgan Riley.
Oh,
Get me started off.
And I'm going to go with Austin Matthews, since you guys left him. All right. Thanks so much, guys, for joining us today on the fan panel. JT up there in Thunder Bay, George all the way out in Calgary holding it down. Mr. Paul Henny Hendrick up in Collingwood, and Sports Talk in the Six, Otis out there in Brampton. My name's Ken Judge, and we're here on Ken's Corner Podcast. Thanks, guys.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to
Go
see you
Blue
again, Paul.
Jays.
Likewise.
Go Jays, go.
Yes, sir.
Jays go.
Nice meeting you, Paul.
Likewise, Otis. Enjoyed talking with you. Take care, Ken, and we'll see you guys soon.
Thanks
Thank
for coming
you.
out again there, Paul.
My pleasure. Absolutely. Bye-bye, JT.
Cheers, guys.